So yeah, I figure it'll be a lot easier if I just go by my notebook and talk about this. I think it's an important topic, so I'm excited for you. But I also think like, why not just? I sometimes when people ask me questions, I just turn into a video or I talk about it on stream because then I can like kind of capture this and put it online on YouTube or something like that too. As long as they don't, I probably won't do it with this music playing though. So if I choose to put on YouTube, I can't use that music if it's like super loud. So I'm just gonna pause that. All right. Anyways, so I wouldn't say they're my top tips, but I'd say they're 5 tips that I at least have right now. 5 tips that I have for like on commentating, and I think some of this is general. So we can have a conversation after this, and you can ask me more detailed questions. But at least this will start to get the conversation going. But number one, and this is in no specific order, it's just what I remembered it in. Which is funny because the first topic is remembering. So if you can't remember the name of a move, make one up, or look it up. But if you can't look it up, then just make one up for it that you can call it. Like just say the statement once, and then after that, just roll with it. If you have a nickname for a move, then just go with it because you don't want to spend a whole bunch of time going, what's that move called? And like 8,000 things have already happened by the time you try to remember that move. So just make up a name so that if you don't know it, because I don't know how well you know the roster, but like with Street Fighter, there's certain characters I don't know much about, which I'll get into another topic as well in a second. But if I don't know the name of a move, I'll either use a really general one, like, oh, it's a DP motion or something like that. Everyone, is universal terms, but it's also like if there's something very specific that doesn't have a nickname already, or you can't remember that nickname, just make one up. It'll be more personable for you anyways, and just stick with it every time you commentate for the rest of your life. And that's why you have like Yipes and all these other people, because like the Millie Rock with Cell from Dragon Ball, it's either more iconic or they can't remember the name of the move. I've seen people do that. I've even seen people like kind of say it in their own way. Like they just like they can't remember a name. You just make one up. It's like you brand yourself a little bit. Second topic is breathing. If you notice the last couple of sentences, it's hard to breathe. It's hard to talk when you can't breathe through your nose. So take care of your health is a bonus topic. But no. Breathing is really important because you want to be able to enunciate, you want to be able to talk, you also want to be able to be heard and understood. If you get too excited, it's important to get excited, but if you get too excited during certain parts, you're not talking well enough, all your words start kind of blurring together. Trust me, I know when I'm editing my own sentences, my own podcast, I can hear the waveform is like one long waveform for a whole sentence just because I like don't pause in between them if I don't breathe and don't take my breath. But the other reason it's important is because it's you don't want to get distracted. So the third topic is focus only on what's going on now. And part of having to do that is making sure that you're paying attention to nothing else. So like don't pay attention to anybody talking to you. Like if they're talking to you, unless they're like touching you or something, just ignore them and focus only on the match. Unless it's the person that's running the tournament that's talking to you, unless it's someone that's like a staff member. If it's like a random person or a friend, during downtime, that's fine. Like if there's nothing going on, but like if you're actively commentating on a match, nothing else matters except for the director, I guess I'll call him, and the match, the players. That's it. Like depending on what, like if you want to go more towards professional commentating, this is like a must. If you're just trying to be, if you're just trying to be entertaining and you don't really care too much about profession, then you can acknowledge people, but just be aware that it's going to deter from the people that aren't there, that can't see who you're talking to. So they just see they hear you having a conversation with somebody that has nothing to do with anything. So that's why I would eliminate it, because like on a professional level, it just doesn't look good. But on an entertainment level, it's also not very fun when somebody's talking to somebody else, unless it's like a super chill situation, like something at our locals. I think for the most part, like we could get away with that until we start getting more and more intense with the tournaments, and then we have to like make sure no one's bugging us or anything like that. But yeah, focus not just on like external stuff. Always let F champ on the mic. No. But there's internal, like I struggle with ADD, so like I have to meditate, I have to exercise in order for me to maintain mental presence. So that's why I play music. Almost every time you watch me sing, anytime I'm in a tournament, I'm listening to music. Probably because it helps me focus, or definitely because it helps me focus. So I recommend just making sure that you keep in check. Breathing helps keep you present. When you're breathing, it's hard to be stuck in the past or thinking about the future because it's a physiological thing, but also blood flow helps the brain. So the more blood the brain has. The more oxygen the brain has, the more blood flow it has. The more blood flow it has, the better it can really work. It's basically a organ or a machine. It works very well when you give it what it needs. When you give it sustenance. Yeah, it's important. So breathing is multi-useful. So take a few breaths. Try to do it away from the mic. Like, if you have a microphone, you want to like put it away and kind of just, if you have to catch your breath, if you're noticing that you're talking a lot and you're not like taking breaths and pausing in between, make sure you take a few seconds to just breathe. Let your partner talk for a little bit, and while they're talking, catch your breath. That's why they're there. This isn't one on my list, but another tip that I have is to get used to the flow of your co-commentator. If you're commentating with somebody else, you don't want to talk over them, but you don't also want them talking over you either. There's a few different bits of advice I can give with that, depending on your personal goals versus your co-commentator. Some people you may have to talk over because they won't shut up, and they won't get the hint. I should say they just won't get the hint, so they'll keep talking. So you need to find a way to kind of interject, continue on with what they're saying, but then also point out something else that's going on that you notice that you really want to see. And then kind of on that note, sometimes it's important to, like, if you notice something and you want to talk about it, but it's like 30 seconds ago, save it for after the match is over, almost like analysis, rather than bringing it up in the middle of the match. So it's like, oh man, that thing was sick, but like the other person didn't notice it. He was talking, you want to make some points on it. You notice something that maybe they didn't, bring that up when they're choosing their character, or, they're doing their rematch or something like that, or after the set's over and the next person is getting up, because you're going to have some downtime depending on how organized the tournament is. So save the things that you didn't get to talk about for when the next players are going on stage, or when there's like some downtime between like character select. It's a long pause, or thinking about who they want to play, or just killing the clock for a second to kill the momentum. That's some times where you can. There's gonna be a lot of stuff going on in your mind, unless you're like a really like chill person or something. You're gonna have thoughts, and not everyone's going to be able to get talked about in the moment. So yeah, that's another tip as well. Another tip is get any information you can ready beforehand. So a lot of times I'll pull up, on my phone, I'll have Chrome pulled up with the brackets, because sometimes the person that's running a stream is super busy and he forgets stuff, and he might ask you, hey, what's the score, or who's up next. It's not as likely, but tournaments get so hectic that it's hard for one person to do all the things that are needed from them if everyone else isn't doing their job. Sometimes crap happens, technical difficulties happen, so there might be times where you might need to have information like that. So pull up the brackets if you can, if it's accessible on Smash.gg or Challenge. Or the other bit of information is like character knowledge. If you have any reliable sources of notes, if you have any notes for characters, if you want to pull the frame data, like I know you have Tekken Chicken or T7 apps. I always pull up V frames or FAT because I want to know the frame data. So I'll queue up both the apps and put one character on each app that's being fought. That way I can look at the frame data. The camera's not on me, so I can have that there and kind of like glaze down at it and look to check the references, check the numbers, check the name of a move. If I want to know the name of a move, I'll look it up real quick. So that's another tip, because there's no way you're going to know everything. So just have the information that you might need readily available, and eliminate any unnecessary stuff. So don't have any social media. I did talk about your phone, but make sure you put it on silent, turn off the vibrate. You don't have to put it in airplane mode, but make sure notifications are just turned off. You don't want to see anything not relevant to the match. So I caution you, if you do pull out your phone, to make sure that you don't have any distracting apps running on there. Yeah, so you think that it'll help that I'm really good friends with your partner? Oh yeah. So you guys can actually coordinate. Something that Sajam said that I like that he does with like Tasty Steve is they actually they give like hand gestures to each other, saying like, hey, I got something I want to say real quick, or like they'll tap them or something like that, letting them know, okay, wrap up what I'm saying, and then give you a second to add on, or just like end it really quickly. So if you have some sort of non-verbal communication to let each other know that you want to say something, that's ideal. That's why I think Tasty Steve and Sajam, or Tasty Steve and Yipes are so good together, or James Chin and Ultra David. They're a good pair. Like the both of them together are really good because they have chemistry already, and it's easier to give each other feedback. Kind of a side note, something else I didn't think about. Another tip is if you're friends with this person, treat it like a fighting game where afterwards you talk about how each other did and you just be very objective. You know, when you're not trying to hurt each other's feelings. It's like, hey, I noticed this. You like, there's going to be times where you use the same word over and over and over again, and then it starts to get stale. You may not be the first person to notice that. So if you notice it in your friend, point that out, and also be prepared for that kind of stuff if they point that out to you. Because I know that I use certain words like, what's one that I say a lot? It's like something like "what's going to happen" or "let's see what happens" or something like that. We'll see what happens, something along those lines. And I hate because like now I notice that I say it, and I'm like, dang, I say it way too many times. Or there's things like that. So you want to try to mix it up, like preemptively find words to replace the words that you say a lot, so that way you can kind of mix it up. Like I love Sajam commentary strictly because of his segues alone. I think that segues are super amazing, and he has some of the best. Like when he segues to a plug, it's just so well done. Which brings me to my next topic, which is plugging the venue. Did you see that segue? It was godlike, right? No, not really. Probably not. Oh, jeez. I cracked myself up. I'm so stupid. All right. So, anyway, seriously, the venue always wants to be plugged. You can do yourself a lot of good favors by plugging the venue as many times as you can without sounding like you're, I guess, shilling, so to speak. Because at the end of the day, wherever you're at, and probably sponsors as well, they'll usually let you know. If they don't talk about sponsors, ask them about sponsors. Like, hey, who are the sponsors we should be talking about if there's any downtime? Find out what they do and find a way to talk about it in a way that like feels comfortable to you. And a lot of people are very uncomfortable with like doing plugs and stuff like that. But I mean, one, that's kind of business. Like at the most objective level, it's business. But also, you have to think about it as you're helping the community be sustainable by talking about the venue. Like, you know, this venue, this tournament is brought to you by LFG Gaming. They're a barcade here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. You want to talk about the city as well. The city, that's always good, especially the more popular it is, the better it is, because there's different organizations within cities. Like we have Discover Kalamazoo that wants to bring more people in. If you're talking about the city, like you're helping them out. So a lot of people are really uncomfortable with plugs. But it takes a little bit of practice. I have like years and years of sales, so it's really easy for me to talk about something. But I like to, if I'm like truly selling something, that's different. Like, you know, my coaching or something like that, I have confidence in that. But when it comes to, you know, like a product, like a gaming chair or something like that, I have no connection to it. So you want to try to find like a snippet that's already there, try to read that, and then maybe reword it in a way that feels more comfortable and natural to you. That's more on the business side of things. It's like you got a job, maybe you don't necessarily like it, but it's just something that's professional that helps the organization that is helping to promote you. If it wasn't for that venue or that sponsor, this wouldn't be able to happen. So at the very least, that's something that you could say. I think that's just something that a lot of people don't really think about on the more amateur level. There's no word for that. Like I wouldn't consider myself a professional by any means, but I've watched and paid attention to like specifically commentary. I've done it a lot for different events. I think the biggest one that I could say is like the Youmacon Battle Opera. Like that's the biggest one that I think I did. I did Michigan Masters last year. But I think the Youmacon is like the longest, like where I did like 10 to 16 hours of commentary over the weekend. It was like in 2 days. It was bananas. Oh man. But yeah, it's good. So like your openers and your closers are also kind of important. Like that's usually when you want to do it. It's like, hello and welcome to the name of the event here at the venue and the name of the city. We have so and so going on. Like if you have to do the introduction, I don't know where they're throwing you in. If they're throwing you at the very beginning, or if they're just like tossing you in when it's already going on. So that's one thing you want to mention is like as soon as you're coming in, you want to mention the name of the venue or the name of the event, the name of the venue, and the name of the city and state, or at least the city. If it's Chicago, you don't have to say Chicago, Illinois. Everyone knows it's Chicago, Illinois. But if it's like Fort Wayne, there's like Fort Wayne, Indiana, Fort Wayne, Alabama. So stuff like that, you can kind of pick and choose. But yeah, remember that order. It is event name, venue name, and then city, state. And then the same thing if you're closing, it's the same thing. Thank you guys so much for coming in and checking out the stream here at the name of the venue or the name of the event at the name of the venue at the name of the city. That's the way you close it out. That's the way you open it up as well, and that's also how you kind of kill time in between each match as well. So you'll get used to the pattern by the end of the stream, depending on how many hours you're putting in. You'll have that down to a spiel. So those are the tips that I have. If you have any questions, I can probably elaborate a little bit more. I didn't know. I kind of just gave a general overview because I didn't know. I know you said you didn't have much experience with commentary. So those are the first things that pop to mind. I think the other things are really like simple. Obviously, I think that if I talk about these things, like staying in the moment, then you already know to talk about what's going on. Something else that I don't have on here is try to think about how you can explain things for the layman, but also keep the novice, the intermediate, and the professional engaged as well. So you want to be able to bring in new people by explaining what's going on, but also not make it so simplified that it feels like you're insulting the intelligence of better players, if that makes any sense. The place where Youmacon was is going to be a different by the end of the year. I mean, it's always in that same... the Kobo Center. It was in the Kobo Center. So it was Youmacon Battle Opera at the Kobo Center here in Detroit, Michigan. I still remember that. That's funny. Yeah, no problem. You'll be at LFG on Thursday, so we can talk then too. Yeah, cool. All right. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully you have some of that written down. Don't be afraid to bring a notebook with you. I always bring a notebook when I'm commentating because, like, when I got there, they were like, "Hey, you're doing the intro. Just make sure you mention what I told you." Basically, he was like, "Well, he didn't tell me it like that, but he said make sure you say Kobo Center." Or Youmacon Battle Opera, Kobo Center, and then the city. Like that's what he told me. Detroit. He said Detroit, but I was like, no, like that's the same thing I see pretty much anywhere. You watch any commentary, the person that's the opener and the closer, they're probably going to say that. And so I was like, Kobo Center. That's weird. I can't remember that. So I just wrote it down on a notebook. I had the notebook open. Like I opened it. I put my phone on top of it and just glanced down at it before I started talking. Like, maybe it looks like I have a teleprompter down there or something like that. It doesn't really matter. I just wanted the reminder. So I was like saying it to myself until I remembered it, saying it to myself until I remembered it. And then I was like, okay, cool. I got it. My memory is terrible. So I have to like sit there and kind of like go over it over and over and over again until I got it right. But if you want to be like a good commentator, I think those are the things that you have to do that separate yourself from other players. Yeah. And then, yeah, be yourself. Be who you are. Like, pull inspiration from other people. Like, I do this personally, but I also think it's funny that Yipes does it. Like, when someone's doing a combo, or like, yeah, basically a combo, he's like, like, I do that too, but like, I don't think I got it from him, but I think that like, he made me feel like it was okay to do that. Because it felt weird doing it around people, but then like, I would do it with my friends when I was commentating. I would want to do that kind of stuff, and then the more I watched Yipes playing, I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, like, he's really popular and he does it. He doesn't care. Why should I care too? Or sometimes I'll just make up weird words for things. Sometimes I like to have fun and I'll throw weird references in there just to see if people will like notice it. But it's mainly for personal satisfaction and also kind of a challenge to like use like an anime reference. That's kind of a fun side thing, but yeah, it's something I like to do. This is really helpful. I'm going to send the link to the vid to your friend. Okay. Yeah, I might cut it. Like, not cut it, but I don't know. Yeah, if you can send a link to him, that's fine. And too bad, like, you can't clip that long of a thing, but I'll see if I can clip the beginning of the conversation at the end. If I like it, I might put it on YouTube and, like, cut it up and just get all the main points and make it, like, way shorter. But I should probably head out because speaking of podcasts, I got to finish editing this one and get it out. But I'll be on Facebook, or if you want to hop in Discord, we can chat for a little bit. I think I was already streaming by the time you had hit me up, so I was like, I didn't mention to hop in the Discord. I was going to ask you if you wanted to be on stream with me. Kind of a side note, I was thinking, well, two things. Either one, you can just come here locally, like you and James, but also there's like a couple of apps where you can watch like YouTube videos together, so we can do some match analysis on Tekken. Excuse me. Also, when is the event? I feel like I should know that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Because if it's not like super soon, at some point we can hop on to like Tekken, and I'll show you. Like, I've commentated games that I don't know how to commentate. Like I've commentated for Third Strike, and Injustice. I know the game. Well, I know the general overview of those games, but like I don't know the specific like numbers of it, so I don't focus on that kind of stuff. Um, the 16th. If you have time, sometime, maybe Wednesday or Friday, I can. Yeah, he does commentary. Ultra David does commentary where he commentates his commentary. That's where I first started studying commentary. It was from him, and then also Sajam started doing it as well. They don't do it as often as they used to, but yeah, they do that. It's pretty cool. Shoot, what was I saying? Yeah. At one point, maybe we can watch some matches and we can just talk about it. I think just being able to analyze matches, like start watching matches now. Start watching some tournament matches, and just either mouth something, like just start practicing talking and feeling air by yourself. If you can commentate a whole match by yourself, it'll be a lot easier to commentate when someone else is with you. So like when I'm doing the match analysis, it's just me talking. But when I'm actually doing, and like this has helped me tremendously to be able to articulate myself faster and better. It's kind of weird when I'm actually commentating and people are on me. I feel like I perform better than when I'm just streaming. Like the more people, the more eyes that are on me, the more focus that I get. So that's kind of a personal thing. I use that motivation to get better. He said, yeah, he just dropped a 2-hour video recently. Okay, I haven't seen him do one in a long time, so I'll have to check that out. Sounds good. Should be free Wednesday or Friday. Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna get out of here now because I can keep talking about this forever. I appreciate you asking me. I'm honored to give some advice. Hopefully, some of it helps. I'd love to hear about how it goes afterwards. But I'm out of here. I'll see you Thursday though, or sooner online or something like that. But yeah, you guys have a great night. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next one. Adios.